Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it is another Capcom beat 'em up, and it is one of my favorites of all time. I've actually previously done an arcade Let's Play of this, and it's the King of Dragons. Awesome beat 'em up. That actually doesn't really feel like a beat 'em up compared to, well, other beat 'em ups. It's one of those games where you just attack once, you don't have combos or anything like that, so it might even feel relatively odd for people coming from, you know, like Final Fight or Knights of the Round or Captain Commando or something like that. But man, I love this game. It's so much fun. It's very unique. There's not really quite anything like it, and it's got a good amount of variety to it too. It's a very long game. I think there's 16 full-length stages, but you also have 5 different characters you can play as, and they have different stats, you know, different perks and things like that. So you've got like the archer and the wizard, which don't have shields or anything like that. But then you got the fighter, the dwarf, and the cleric, which do have shields and they can block, but they're just close range. Whereas the archer or elf and the wizards are long range. So lots of fun stuff here. The original arcade version was actually a 3-player game. Unfortunately, that was knocked down to 2 players for the Super Nintendo release, but that's still one more than the original Final Fight had on Super Nintendo. Really fun game, and we're gonna run through it. I think I should be able to go through this game. I don't think I'm gonna have too much trouble. I am gonna die. I might even continue a couple times, but I think we're gonna be able to do it, guys. Let's see. So yeah, X is the extra joy, which is your panic attack, and then manual shield off. Unfortunately, I'll be playing as the wizard, so it's not like I really have a shield anyway. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and hit start. Before I kick things off, though, as usual, I'm going to give a big shout out to my current Patreon backers. They're going to flash across the screen. Thank you guys for your continued support. The live stream super chatter is going to also flash by after that as well. Thank you guys for your recent patronage on my live streams, which are on Thursday nights. So we're going to go ahead and play as the wizard. My arcade Let's Play, I'm pretty sure I did with the fighter, but the wizard is a more interesting. I don't want to say it's a more interesting playthrough, but it's a little bit difficult for me because I'm so used to the fighter. The fighter is my go-to character in King of Dragons, but the wizard is slower. His projectiles are really strong up close in the first few levels before he gets his upgrades, but he's slow, and I'm not used to that sluggish nature. The fighter is a much faster, fighter, and like I said, he also has the benefit of being able to block. So since I did my arcade Let's Play with the fighter, we're going to go ahead and just do this Let's Play with the wizard. I might even revisit the arcade version down the road, because that Let's Play is a couple of years old now, so the video quality is rough. You know, it's blurry. It was with my old capture standard definition setup, no upscalers or anything at that point, and no RGB either for that matter. Oh, look at that! He dropped a fire orb, which is great because these will actually do really good damage on bosses. And there's that orb that actually appeared out of one of those chests. Oof! It does so much damage it actually killed him in one hit. That's amazing. But yeah, there's another orb that appears out of that second chest, and a lot of times in the arcade version I try to kick it over to the boss, but I find it much harder to do in the Super Nintendo one. So it was actually really awesome that orc actually dropped another one, which is really cool. So I got to kill the boss instantly. So this little orb right here turns all the enemies into frogs. Let's demonstrate that for you. Much like, other typical Capcom beat-em-ups, food gives you health back. And your health is that multicolored bar down there underneath your name, or your character class. Since I guess technically you don't have names in this game, it's just fighter, wizard, cleric, etc. Alright, there we go. Good fight. So your score in this game is basically your experience points. And after certain boss fights, you get upgrades. So that was basically like one of the armor upgrades. You get armor upgrades and offensive upgrades. And then everything else you pick up adds to your score, or your EP at the top. Stands for experience points. Also, your score. So your score is your experience in this game. And so, you know, if you want to level up your character the fastest, obviously you want to try to pick up as many point goodies as you can. It's actually interesting playing this coming directly from, say, a lot of sessions with Final Fight on the Super Nintendo, which I've been playing a lot of recently. Because this actually has more enemies on screen at once than Final Fight does on Super Nintendo. Final Fight 1 has a 3-character limit, and the game slows down like crazy too. But King of Dragons, not so much. It actually moves at a really brisk pace for the most part. It does slow down a little bit here and there, but it is not like the first Final Fight on Super Nintendo. So with the wizard, you really want to get up close to your enemies, but you gotta watch out because, you know, they can counterattack. You can attack them, and sometimes they'll just bounce back and attack you immediately, and you can't do anything but take a hit. And just like most beat-em-ups from the time period, the enemies really dish out the damage, particularly the Capcom beat-em-ups from the day. Oof, I thought I could avoid that. So I just leveled up there. When they go, "Hoo!" and raise their staff or weapon in the air, that means you've leveled up. You're invincible for a short period of time. If any enemy is on top of you when you level up, you'll actually do some damage to them as well, which is nice. So he's going to just walk along the ground now and shoot his fire at the ground. So I want to be above or below him for when he does that. I wasn't far enough below him, unfortunately. Alright, and once you do enough damage, he goes back into the air, and then he just dashes down at you. So wherever you are, that's where he's going to fly down at. I'd really like to do this without dying, because I want to conserve as many lives as I can for the end game. So we got 5 lives right now and 2 continues, which isn't too bad. But of course, that could dwindle the farther we go. I'm just sort of playing it safe right here. Trying to get on the walk. Oh, we still died. That's awful. Alright, we're just going to go all out then. That's absolutely awful. I'm really scared to get close to this guy. Because when he'll do his attack towards the ground, the fire attack on the ground, and a lot of times I'll be up in the air jumping and attacking him because that's all I can do. And I'll land on top of his fire. Or if I just sit and attack him, you know, without jumping, he just shoots his fire straight forward and I get killed. Alright, so after this level, we're pretty much a quarter of the way through the game. Took some arrows to the face. But I really think the game's going to get a little bit easier as the game goes on, because with the wizard, he just gets more and more powerful as the game goes on. I mean, I guess technically every character does, but the wizard especially. And that's another one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to play with the wizard. I'm still not quite used to it. I used to play as the wizard as a kid. One of my best friends back in the day, who is no longer with us, sadly. I wish I could like share these modern moments with King of Dragons, because he introduced me to the game. One of my best friends, and he let me borrow this game quite frequently. And we also used to play the game together too. It was one of our favorite games to play. And so I did play this a lot as a kid. And I did play as the wizard back then. But I also remembered, like, when we played 2-player, he liked the wizard, so I would oftentimes play as, you know, the fighter or something like that. And but yeah, I did play as the wizard a lot on my own back then, but there was a point where I just eventually started switching to the fighter because it felt like the fighter was more powerful and he was also faster. And then I learned that you could block, and then I learned in the arcade version you can block on command if you do it just right. And so playing with the wizard nowadays is actually kind of new to me again because it's been so long since I've really focused on playing with the wizard. You gotta watch out for these guys when they dash down like that from out of from off screen. They do a ton of damage. So, and my goal here is to try to hit these guys as close to them as possible because that's how you dish out the damage with the wizard. The closer you get, the more powerful you are. Come on, dude, stop it! All right, you know what? Okay, never mind. I was going to use my panic attack. So just like other beat-em-ups from the time, you can press both buttons together, which will do your extra joy or your panic attack. You can also just press X. Pretty sure you can do Y and B together in this one. We're going to have to test that out. Because I'm pretty sure the arcade game is just a 2-button game. So you have to press both attack and jump together. Okay, actually, it looks like it is a totally separate button on the Super Nintendo version. It's not like Final Fight, where you can press both buttons together. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, I take that back. Yeah, I took some unnecessary hits there from these skeletons. These guys could be a pain. Oh, there we go. Upgraded attack power. And I just took a death. Unnecessarily, that was my fault. I should have avoided that. The skeletons really aren't that hard to deal with. So these guys are a little tricky to deal with as well. When you attack them, they fall over. And then they basically lunge at you. When they're lunging at you, you can't hit them. So you have to basically hit them, knock them over, let them lunge, and then move out of the way. Then you can hit them. And if you don't do that, if you try to attack them when they're lunging at you, you're going to get hit, basically. And these birds here, these harpy-looking things, can actually really dish out the damage too if you let them touch you. So you really want to just take them out as quickly as possible. A lot of times you're going to jump and do that. Just like so. Now, as we're playing through this game, we need to watch out for semi-hidden treasure chests that just sort of peek their way off the bottom of the screen. And there's a couple of those throughout the game. It feels like they're placed almost randomly. And they will reveal one of the old classic little Capcom icons. I forgot what they were called. The little swirly looking icons that Capcom used to hide in a lot of its games, including the very first Mega Man. And that'll give you an extra continue. And if we can get an extra continue or two, that would be amazing, because that'll pretty much guarantee us completing the game in this one sitting here. Good time to get a level up, because he was right on top of me. The other good thing about the wizard is that, you know, you can stay long range with him, and especially later on in the game, his attack not only goes a long way, but it's also really, really powerful. There's a health refill. So King of Dragons does make you fight certain bosses again. So we gotta fight this guy a second time. Later on in the game, it also makes you refight bosses, but with double the boss count. So there's like these ninja warriors we're gonna fight later on. We're gonna fight one at first, and later on we're gonna fight two, and then at the end of this whole stage we're gonna fight a Cyclops. Later on in the game we'll have to fight a Cyclops again, but two at the same time, which is really, really tricky. There's gonna be a bunch of skeletons on this level too. Let's try to take these guys out from a distance. Sometimes there's hidden treasure chests behind the pillars. Oh, I should have used my panic attack. I just wasted a life, because I know there's going to be a little bit of health up here. And just like in other beat-em-ups, you don't want these guys to get on all four, or on all sides. I almost said all four sides. I guess technically there are four sides, top, down, left, right. But... I'm tired right now, as always. What is a Let's Play without recording it completely tired? It wouldn't be a proper Let's Play, that's for sure. Took another hit unnecessarily. These skeletons are really kicking my ass. And it's my fault too. I'm just letting them just land right on top of me. But that's an issue I find myself in more with the wizard than anyone else, because he attacks slowly. You know, when you attack, you're left wide open. With, like, the fighter, I don't have that issue, because he recovers so quickly from his attacks. I can attack rapidly and not have to worry about being left wide open as much. Granted, the wizard's gonna make things easier later on in the game, because there's gonna be these lizard-type enemies constantly appearing. And the wizard is really good against those guys, whereas the fighter is not. Nice. Well, at least we didn't die. Alright, so 3 lives left, 2 continues still. Level 8, got a little bit of health. And a weapon upgrade. Now, from what I understand, if you really want to give yourself a challenge, you can actually skip the armor and weapon pickups that they give you. And you can make the game a lot more challenging. I've never tried that. I don't know if I really want to try it, but it is something. I might have to try it anyway, just for fun. Not that I expect to get very far. Another level up. What's good about the wizard is when he's got this attack, it actually will cover the ground as well. So you can actually hit these blobs before they jump. With other characters, you have to attack the blobs mid-air. Otherwise, you just don't make contact with them. That's one of the advantages of the wizard over other characters. So there definitely are benefits, you know, to playing as one character over another. Well, I didn't think I would take a hit. I figured I would hit him. But nope, he blocked my attacks. A little bit more health, nothing special. This is the spider boss. Nothing too crazy here. You just really just want to keep jumping. You don't want to let them grab you. And if you can get, you know, close hits, that's the best. Because that's where all the damage is done with the wizard. Alright, more armor. Alright, so we're about halfway through the game now. Still got a ways to go. Still got a ways to go. 3 lives and counting. I was expecting to be able to destroy that spear, but apparently you can't. So these guys that charge at you, you want to attack them when they're in their charging motion. And they'll basically hop over themselves. And you want to move out of the way. So this is like a meteor attack, which is pretty cool. Doesn't really do too much against the lizard guys, so you want to just go ahead and use it on these dudes. The fire, I'm not sure if the fire works. I know lightning works pretty well on the lizard guys. No, fire works pretty well too. So there's like very light, you know, role-playing game elements or characteristics typical in role-playing games. Ultimately, it's still an arcade-style beat-em-up, first and foremost. But there's some light, very light RPG elements to this game, which is kind of neat. Alright, so this guy we just want to get in close on. Now, probably my least favorite aspect about King of Dragons is the fact that they make you refight bosses you've already fought many times in the game. It's like 3 or 4 times it happens. And one of them is this guy right here. We have to actually fight him not just later on in the game, but on the very next level. And so I wish they mixed things up a little bit more. But, you know, it is what it is. I still love this game. I think it's still an excellent, you know, excellent beat 'em up. But in reality, what I think they probably could have done is just shortened the game by a couple of levels. And really just spruced up the other levels in between. So this is where like your attack power with the wizard just becomes really, really awesome. So here's the guy I was talking about, right here. Saving that frog orb actually helps. It actually does a little bit of damage against the guy. That was a good fast fight. Wonder how much damage the frog orb actually does to that mini-boss. Oh, look at that! We got one of the free continues. It was hidden behind that wall on the bottom of the screen. You can see we've got 3 continues now. So like what I said earlier, I think those things are random, because I found it once in a very specific spot. I saw it just like peeking off the edge of the, you know, bottom of the screen. But that time I didn't see it at all. And I have most certainly attacked there before. So I think it's just randomly placed throughout parts of the game. I don't know if it's in multiple spots or if it's, you know, I don't know if it occurs multiple times throughout a playthrough or if it's just like once. Maybe it's only in a very specific spot every time you play. It's hard to say. So that was my panic attack. And we're pretty close to the boss fight now. Nope, this is it. Probably gonna die. So I feel like this guy you're best jumping against, whereas the second time you fight him with the other ninja guy, it feels like you just want to stay on the ground with those guys, at least until they get up close to you and they just try to sword you, sword swipe you. Alright, stage 10 out of 16. Alright, so these mummies will charge at you. And when that happens, it's very difficult to stop them. Especially if you're playing as a melee fighter. Or melee attack, sorry, melee character, like the fighter, or the cleric, or the dwarf. Oh, look at that! There's our second free continue. We pretty much got this one in the bag then if we've got 4 continues. I don't think we're gonna need them, but just in case. These skeletons really do not like lightning, apparently. Man, I hate it when I take a hit at these guys. Yeah, so basically these guys are just constantly bouncing back and forth. You don't want to get touched by any of them. So that means you got to be selective on when you attack. And you can kind of see where, like, I'm just attacking very frequently, which is actually a bad thing for me. They throw out these sickles every now and then, too. You can either try to dodge the sickles, or you can actually attack them away. So I definitely didn't good as... I'm getting some... exhibiting some serious dyslexia right now. I am, I've been up for way too long. I actually really shouldn't be doing this Let's Play. I just recorded my Final Fight 1 Let's Play right before this. But for those of you guys that watched that Let's Play, I actually spent about 3 hours trying to run through that game. It wasn't until the 4th run that I actually managed to beat the game without continuing. And then after that, I was like, I can do King of Dragons now. But in reality, I probably should have saved it for another day with how much I've been trying to, you know, bang my head against the wall with Final Fight. Not trying, I definitely have been. Super Nintendo Final Fight, mind you. But, you know, it's been a 16, 17 hour day for me by this point, so I really shouldn't be doing this, but... So I apologize for the, slurred speech and dyslexia. It's just something that happens with me when I'm extremely, extremely tired. And my mind is just mentally drained, and holy crap, Final Fight just took it out of me. That was really, really frustrating, but... Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Let's Play, if you guys watched that one. If you did, that's what counts. You know, as long as I don't kill myself in the process of making these. Like, I kind of want to try to save that orb for the boss, but I don't think we're going to have enough time. Yeah, it's going away. Damn it. That was actually really close, too, because here's the boss. This is one of those bosses you just want to take your time on. So what's actually kind of funny about this guy is he's appeared in previous Capcom games. He was in a much smaller form, mind you, in Black Tiger by Capcom, which is another really awesome game. I hope to eventually do a Let's Play one of these days. That's going to require me to practice it a lot beforehand, but there was a time where I could beat that on the Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2. With just 1 or 2 continues, actually. I got pretty good at that game, so we're going to have to revisit that sometime. That's another one by Capcom I really enjoy. So this is the 3rd time we've had to kill this guy. or a variation on it. So I guess you could say it's not really boss-like now because we're doing so much more damage, but you know, there is definitely a lot of palette swapping going on in this game. Wow, that was 5 enemies on screen at once. That's abnormal. I mean, it probably helps with in King of Dragons that the sprites are a lot smaller than, say, Final Fight. You know, these characters are like half the size of pretty much any sprite in Final Fight, so that probably helps the system keep up. Alright, so this is the boss. Ooh, sorry. We're almost at the boss fight. But this boss fight coming up is the one I was talking about where we have to fight 2 of those ninja warrior guys. Ninja knights? Knight ninjas? Kasumi ninjas? I have no idea. Yeah, so when they jump and attack, it seems like it doesn't do a whole lot to you. But on the first guy, if, when he jumps and attacks, it doesn't do anything. Alright, so, like, when they jump and attack and you're on the ground, it doesn't do anything. But on the first fight, if you're on the ground and he jumps and attacks, it does do something. So it's basically whatever strategy you use on the first guy, it's reversed for these two. And that's what I figured of it so far. The thing about these beat-em-ups is, in a lot of cases, it's really difficult to figure out the patterns and so forth. I was worried that like maybe he just went off screen and glitched out or something. Wouldn't be the first time I've had something like that happen on one of these Super Nintendo games. Looking at you, zombies ate my neighbors. Alright, just a couple more levels. This is actually a really short stage as well. And what we can do, if we wanted to, is once these guys start flying in, we can actually just kind of sit here and just attack these guys over and over. Because they'll actually stop spawning. Which will make life easier. Okay, just like that. Now we can move on. Alright, so this is a mini-boss coming up here. He could be relatively tricky. And you can just watch and see what I mean. If you can hit him, that's great. If you can't, then it's a little bit tougher. Wow, good job. Normally I take a lot more damage. But as long as you can keep hitting him when he respawns, then it's a lot easier. We want to go ahead and grab whatever in these chests right away, so we can just focus on the boss after that. Alright, so this guy mainly shoots projectiles down on the ground, and they just go almost wherever you are. Like so. So you really want to wait until he shoots those projectiles before you start jumping all over the place. So kind of like that. Now he's actually a lot... Oh, come on, really? I was gonna say, he's actually a lot easier with the wizard than he is with other characters. Because you can play the ranged game. Unfortunately, that's the third time I've gotten hit by that projectile. What? I still got hit by it? That was just some crappy hit detection, that's all. Wow, so we're gonna use our first continue on this guy. That sucks, actually. I was expecting this guy to be one of the easiest of the bosses for me, because I'm playing with the wizard. And he's most certainly the easiest with the wizard. So that was my fault. That was some poor play on my part. Alright, so just a couple more stages. We got the cave. Sorry, to the cave. We're not actually in the cave yet. We go here, then there's a cave, and then we go to basically the final boss. Remember, these guys, you attack them and they lunge. I didn't really get to demonstrate it earlier. So you need to make sure that you don't attack them as they're lunging. Which I'm being dumb and I'm trying to do. Right after I've just explained it. You can tell I'm burnt out when I'm not even, like, heeding my own advice in these Let's Plays. And these are enemies I'd never, ever get hit by either. Until I do a Let's Play on it. There we go. See, it's really easy. It's just, it's a pattern. You follow the pattern. It's not rocket science. If it was, then I'd be the best rocket science, right? Blah. I'd be the best rocket scientist that ever existed. Well, until I had to do a Let's Play on whatever I was doing, and then I would be the worst. I'm actually super tempted to just cancel this Let's Play and just do this again later on when I can actually talk, but you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and just keep going. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep going. Alright, so this is a palette swap of one of the earlier bosses. Except now he just shoots out ice-based projectiles, and they don't actually do any damage to you, they just freeze you. The gimmick is that there's going to be one of those spear guys that is constantly charging at you. So if you get frozen, you're probably going to get hit by the spear guy. And basically the same pattern as before, he just kind of lunges down like so. Alright, so there's going to be some more mummies here, and this is the fight where we have to do, we have to fight 2 more Cyclops. So it looks like these guys are all dying in one hit now. Alright, he's dead. I'm just taking a lot of hits now. I honestly don't even really care. I've given up trying. That is one of the downsides to King of Dragons. It's like we've been at this for, you know, 45 minutes now. We probably still have another 5 or 10 minutes left in the game. Probably 10 minutes because the last boss just has a ton of hit points. It's one of the downsides to King of Dragons is I do lose my interest a lot of times when I'm playing this all the way through. You know, 70% of the game through, I'm like, okay, is it over yet? Especially in a state like this today where I've just been really tired and I probably shouldn't even be recording this to begin with. But I'm not really worried about it because we've got 4 lives, we've got 3 credits, so we're pretty much guaranteed to beat the game. So I'm no longer worried about beating the game, and so when that's the case, like I'm not, and I've already continued once, so it's not like I'm gonna 1 credit clear this. I actually got really close to 1 credit clearing it over the weekend when I was playing this on stream. I played it as the fighter, and then I went back and I played it again as the wizard, and I lost my last life right before defeating the final boss. Alright, so the final boss has a couple things here. You can attack his hand, which does damage to him, or you can attack his head. If you get too close to him, his hand comes and grabs you, so you don't want that to happen. And you also don't want to touch his fire, because it's bad. So we just died, because I'm lazy. And there's basically going to be a phase where he jumps and switches sides. And when that happens, a lot of times he'll move his head from the back all the way to the front, spewing fire the entire time. And in order to counter that, you have to use your panic attack. That's the only way I've figured out a way against it. So like right now, bam, just like that. Alright, 5 more blocks of health. Oh, I still took a hit. Just like that. Yeah, at the point where I don't even care anymore. Got 3 credits. The ending doesn't change or anything if you're, you know, if you got more credits left over. Nothing really happens. So if I wanted to, I could just sit here. I do feel like this final boss takes way too long to kill. And the big thing is that he's just not really that fun to attack. He's just got this hand up there that, you know, dangles around. And then he's got these attacks. Very repetitious. Nothing... It's actually not that hard. It's just... It's one of those boss fights that it's very easy to lose my focus. Because it's not really all that interesting to me. It looks cool. But it's probably one of the weakest parts of the game for me personally. Some other people might disagree. And it might even be the kind of final boss where, like, it was made for 2-player mode, yet they just never bothered to adjust his health for single-player play. And that's kind of reminds me of, like, Final Fight 2, actually, on Super Nintendo, where apparently in 2-player mode, enemies don't take any less damage. Or any more damage. So it's as if, like, the game was designed to be played in 2-player mode. And not much thought was really put into the single-player game itself. So if you're like me, and, you know, you're playing through the game 20 years later in a Let's Play by yourself, enemies might take a lot longer to kill by yourself. That's just speculation. I don't know if that's actually the case in the game. But it wouldn't surprise me, actually. So... So there we go, guys. King of Dragons for the Super Nintendo. Not the most beautiful run I have ever done of this game, and but like I said, I'm tired. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the game from start to finish. There still were some cool moments, though. I mean, in particular, destroying the first boss with one magic orb was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely not my best run by a stretch. So, yeah, like I said, I actually just recently uploaded a Final Fight Let's Play as well for Super Nintendo. So if you guys missed that, be sure to check that out. I'll probably have Final Fight 2 up sometime in the near future as well. And we'll eventually, well, we'll probably take a break from beat-em-ups after that, but I'll most certainly revisit beat-em-ups later on with maybe Final Fight CD on Sega CD, maybe Streets of Rage 1 and 2 on the Genesis, part 2 of which I need to do a re-record of, because I did that like 4 or 5 years ago by this point. So it needs a re-record with my FrameMeister and RGB setup. And then I'm sure I'll find some other beat-em-ups to play as well later on down the road. But yeah, King of Dragons, it's still an awesome game. It can be tiresome in single player. But the arcade version in particular is a fantastic looking game. They did a pretty decent job bringing it home to the Super Nintendo. It's one of the better looking CPS-1 conversions for the system. And it still runs at a good frame rate too. It's not like Captain Commando where everything just feels like it's running at like sub 30 frames a second. Which is really weird for an arcade game or a game that originated in the arcade. It just doesn't feel right for the game. And in the case of Captain Commando, all the colors are really dark too, whereas in King of Dragons, some of the colors are still relatively bright. It's more muddied looking than the actual arcade version, but it's still a good looking game overall, particularly for when it came out. I guess it was 93 or 94 on Super Nintendo in North America. Still definitely worth checking out. Unfortunately, the cartridge itself is super expensive, so you pretty much want to just buy a flash card for this one, guys, or emulate it if you can. Buying the real deal is not cost-friendly, unfortunately. So probably not worth buying in that case, but... Oh yeah, just a reminder, you can also get the arcade version on a variety of compilations, though. There's multiple Capcom compilations that have it, mainly the Capcom Classics collections from PS2, Xbox, and PSP. On I think it's on the second volume of all of them, actually, now that I think about it. It's volume 2 for the consoles, and I think it's also volume 2 on PSP. So a lot of the games on the PSP Capcom Classics collection were reversed. So some of the games that were on the first collection on consoles were on the second collection on PSP. But King of Dragons, I think, was still in the second collection on PSP. And if you don't have those collections and you've got some of those old systems, then you've got to get on that and buy those, because they're really cheap, and it's the best way to play a lot of those old games, unless you've actually got the original arcade hardware. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this playthrough, despite how kind of crappy it was. I actually didn't really expect to continue that many times, but you know, after a certain point, you just start to get lazy. You're just like, I've had enough. So with that said, guys, I'll be back with some more Let's Plays sometime soon. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I've got a ton of Let's Plays on the way, and many in the back catalog for you to check out. For all of you guys already subbed, thank you for your continued support. Thanks for checking out the video, and once again, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon, and until then, take it easy.